Hello and welcome everybody into another edition of the Sun Solar Panel, wherever you watch us, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. If you listen to us on the podcast, thank you very much. I'm Greg Esposito. Ahoy, hoy.
I'm Dave King. Good to see y'all again.
And this week we've got plenty to talk about. It's been a crazy week. And I'm not talking anything other than Suns even. And
of course,
so we've got Devin Booker rumors to talk about, which should be a quick conversation. A new name for the arena. We've got what in the heck is going to happen with the Suns in this truncated offseason that now is pretty much official. A play-in tournament. There's all sorts of things to talk about. Oh, and we have quite the big announcement to make here on the show.
Huge.
This is probably the biggest thing we've ever announced on this show. No, we don't have any trade news for you, but it's exciting, and we'll share it with you shortly. Dave, how are you, man?
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks for letting me get a word in. I appreciate that. No, I'm just kidding. I am very excited. I am incredibly excited that we have a dawn of a new era. We have a new start. The Phoenix Suns are coming back to play basketball, and that's all I'm talking about. I am all about the Phoenix Suns going forward. I can't wait for everything to get kicked off, and we're going to go through the entire offseason plan. We're going to look at how much money they've got to spend. You're going to tell me who you want them to spend it on. I'll tell you who I want them to spend it on, and all that leading into that big announcement. So we're looking forward to this.
Before we get to anything that we have on the show notes, did you see the teaser video that the team put out for the new uniforms?
Oh boy, yes I did.
Okay, I want to play a clip, and then I want to know what in the heck is going on here. That is one unique reaction to something.
I was doing one of those YouTube deep dives, not on player prospects, but dumb videos. And there was one where Steph Curry was pranking his best friend. And he got his best friend to he wanted a live, he had a whole TV crew to film his best friend reacting to a really cool futuristic car that was the ugliest car ever invented. Like, it wasn't even a car, but he played out this whole 15-minute, dude, you gotta play this up. You gotta play this reaction up. You gotta go bigger. You gotta go. And his friend's like, yeah. And he did the Kelly Oubre thing. He did the, just totally getting into it. And then finally Steph Curry just busted out laughing. And that's what I felt like when I watched that promo.
This has been my reaction every time vote counts have dropped this. Not even to get political, just I'm excited to see some numbers. It's been a weird week in the world, but
it's been a weird week.
And that reaction made it all better. Thank you, Kelly Oubre Jr.
Thank you, Kelly Oubre, for being Kelly Oubre. I love you.
That pure joy made my week better, and I
pure manufactured joy made our week better. You know what? The Suns could have shown him just a piece of cardboard, and he could have had that same reaction. Having said all that, we showed you those jerseys last week, and they are hot. They are totally hot. I can't wait. I'm going to actually buy one of those, and that is probably the first jersey I'll have bought.
And if you're smart enough, watching that teaser video, you can actually see a glimpse of the shorts. So I'm not going to show it here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you,
I didn't watch it close enough.
So, all right, I'll look. So you can see a glimpse of the shorts, but I just have to play this one more time.
Well, until we see the shorts, we can't declare a winner, right?
This is true. By the way, this is my reaction anytime I mute Dave's mic. I'm not.
Which he does probably more often than I think he does.
That's going to be a clip that we use on this show for a very long time. And I really, truly appreciate you, Kelly Oubre Jr. I can't
Darth
stop
Boyda,
smiling.
I will wear the jersey, but only with a T-shirt underneath, because I am not that kind of guy.
Oh man, I can't stop laughing at that Kelly Oubre. Seriously, it's pure joy that it brings me, and I haven't laughed like this in a while. So thank you. In a non-laughing matter to bring up this week, Ryan Russillo on the Bill Simmons podcasts, it claimed the worst kept secret in the NBA is that Devin Booker wants out of Phoenix, and I think really the worst kept secret is that Ryan Russillo doesn't have very good Phoenix sources. I reached out to some people and asked around, and I can't find any truth to this rumor that Ryan Russillo threw out there. But Dave, have you heard anything different?
Oh, I personally have not heard anything different. The Suns are tight as a drum. We all know this because there's really just not leaks coming out anymore. The only leak that there was, it turns out, in retrospect, we're pretty sure it was Ryan McDonough leaking a Woj over the years, but that was about it. So, but what I'm going with, the only thing I'm going with is Davon Wade, Devin Booker's brother, retweeted Gambo's tweet that this is all fake, and so I'm just going with that. I'm just staying with that. Devin, just look. I'm gonna pimp a Twitter friend of ours, Andrew Leasis. He did a live stream while they were playing a video game, Call of Duty, something like that, with
God,
Devin
we
Booker.
sound so old when you're like,
dude, I haven't played. Look, I haven't played a video game since Atari. Okay, I just don't do video games.
You're like, he was playing Pac-Man or something. I don't know.
He was playing, some new version of Pac-Man, where it kind of is actually. So he was playing that. He's live streaming a back and forth conversation with Booker, and Booker just said, even just 2 months ago, this was, and Booker's like, oh, I love it here. I love Phoenix. I love the fans. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to bring a championship here. He's not. Yeah, you know what? Here, let me just tell you. If the Suns continue to lose, if they come out shitty this year, if they don't win, if they don't get into this freaking playoff tournament that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, we deserve for Devin Booker, the Suns deserve for Devin Booker to want to be traded to a team that will win. I watched those playoffs in the bubble, and the whole freaking time I'm like, those lucky sons of guns being in the playoffs with fewer years of experience and fewer the Donovan Mitchells, the Jamal Murrays, all those guys, they are lucky enough to have a team around them that helps them get to the playoffs where they can shine. Devin Booker hasn't had that. The closest he's had is the bubble. And in the bubble, he really did shine. And he's going to shine in the playoffs. Nobody can stop him because he can score from wherever he wants. He can pass from wherever he wants. He can set up his teammates. The guy had the most high-value passes in the entire league this past year. He deserves to be in the playoffs. And if the Suns don't get him into the playoffs going forward, and if they don't get past the second round even in the playoffs in the next 2 or 3 years, he should ask for a trade.
Well, look, I think this was lazy trying to connect the dots by Ryan Russillo, and it's no disrespect to him. A very knowledgeable guy when it comes to basketball. I think he has sources in a lot of places. I just think this was one of those where everybody for a while has assumed that Devin Booker was going to ask out, and it's just kind of been this thought in the back of the heads of a lot of national people. But if there were ever a time that he wasn't going to do that, it'd be now. They just came off of 8-0 in the bubble, almost made it into the playoffs. They have cap space. He's still got 4 years left on his massive extension. Like, this would not be the time that would legitimately happen. So I just think it was lazy connecting the dots, and maybe he has a source that said, well, this is still kind of the truth, but I think it was just kind of a throwaway comment. And as we all know, throwaway comments, even on
the fact
podcasts,
that he said worst kept secret in the NBA. I mean, look, I've listened to Ryan Russillo in the past. He generally doesn't talk out of his butt. So I think it's probably more media generated. Like, all these media guys are just assuming Booker's going to want to go. I don't know that too many people have insight, because we all know how quiet Devin Booker is. The only reason photos of him and Kendall Jenner have been leaking this summer is because of the Kardashians, not because of Booker. Booker's not leaking them. And his streaming on, he doesn't ever say anything of value to naysayers.
Yeah,
even when he live streams, and it's like just a run of the mouth, nothing's stopping him from saying what he wants to say. And most NBA players, they'll say some crazy stuff when you give them an unfiltered mic and they don't think anyone's really listening. Here's
look,
Booker, and he never gives away anything.
The closest thing to giving away something was when he found out that they'd shut down the season while he was live on a stream, and he reacted, and even that wasn't all that much. So yeah, I think this has been way overblown. I think there's a lot of teams that wish Devin Booker wanted out. There's even been reports that Minnesota and Golden State have reached out with the first and second picks to try to make trades with teams, and Booker's name was one of the names that that these reports threw out as saying the Suns laughed basically at offers like that. So look, there's going to be talk. There's always going to be talk about these kind of things, and when your team hasn't made the playoffs in almost 11 years, that's gonna happen. Right. But after the bubble, after that performance, and with the anticipation of this offseason coming and what this Phoenix Suns team is going to do, I just don't believe it. It's like saying the worst kept secret in Arizona is that Gambo actually has a Boston accent. Like, it's just, there's no basis to it. There's no truth to it.
Right.
It's just throwing random crap out there. It's like saying Dave King is actually younger than me and it's the worst kept secret in podcasting. It's not true.
But I look better than you.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take much, but
I'm
I look younger, and that's what matters. So
you're pretty, Greg. You still have dark hair.
Thank you. Well, it's getting grayer by say
don't talk to me about that.
Especially every minute I spend with you, Dave.
I'm just glad I still have a full head of hair. My entire family does not. So
yeah, neither does my 32-year-old
even
brother.
My sister. No, I'm just kidding.
So we mentioned that the Suns have a big off season coming up, and that off season is sneaking up on us even faster than we thought may be the truth. Originally, we thought January 18th, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, was going to be when the season tipped off. Now we find out after the Players Union and the NBA have come to an agreement that December 22nd is likely going to be the start date for the NBA, which means when you look at it, training camp will start December 1st. Well, guess what? December 1st is like 3 weeks away, which means the draft on the 18th and free agency are coming, and they're going to be on a collision course with each other, because the only way to get your roster ready in time for a round training camp is for them both to start around the same time. So we are about to be in for one of the wildest off seasons in NBA history. Due to just having to truncate this timetable and try to fit.
I think it's very likely that the free agency starts before training camp a week. So the draft is the 18th. Training camps are December 1. Players are not going to want to have to sign and then miss already the first few days of training camp. We don't even know what kind of quarantine they're going to require going into training camps for players from the outside, because the NBA, of all the sports leagues, has treated the coronavirus the most serious, and the NBA had 0 cases, whereas all the other sports leagues are having to cancel games and all that. And the NBA's got a lot on this, a lot riding on this. Every team has to play 70+ games to get their regional sports TV contracts honored. Not just the league having a 72-game schedule. Every team has to play 70 games, and they've only scheduled 72. And games are every other day or back-to-back or whatever. So the NBA cannot afford COVID cancellations. So they're going to have to do something like football is doing right now, and other leagues, where they're sitting out the people who have contracted COVID, but letting their teammates still play instead of shutting down the entire thing for 14 days.
You have to wonder if they're going to expand rosters and have some kind of
mini
bubble in the home market.
It's no matter what you may think, COVID is still here. The U.S. just set a record, I think yesterday, and all week it's been a new record every single day, 125,000 new cases. Now, you can say that, well, it's not much worse than the flu, especially these days, but the flu is freaking bad. And it's incredibly contagious. And you cannot play basketball when you have fluid in your lungs. So this is an issue. So anyway, having said all that, I think free agents coming to new teams in new cities are probably going to have some kind of quarantine time. Narrowing it all down to just training camp, you'll miss at least a week, the entire training camp, if you're a free agent signing, if they don't start free agency till December 1. So I really think they're going to start free agency right after the draft. There's been talk about that, but nothing final yet. But I really, really think it'll be the 20th, 21st, somewhere around there. And players are signing throughout Thanksgiving so that they can get into their new city and quarantine for a couple of days or a few days before training camp starts, and they'll take those 2 or 3 consecutive negative COVID tests, that kind of thing, before they're allowed to play. But don't expect the NBA to suddenly forget that COVID exists. And another thing I want to talk about with the schedule is that they're talking, and I didn't put this on our list, Espo, so you didn't prepare, sorry, but they're talking about playing series like baseball, where you go to a town and you play both your road games in that town, not one in December and one in March. On the plus side, if you're the healthy team on that weekend and you get your 2 road games against the Portland Trail Blazers, right on. But what if the Suns are nagging injuries and they have to play both road games in Portland without a couple of big time starters? That could be bad. So it's going to be weird that way, because as basketball rosters and talent isn't that deep. I mean, in baseball, you can just sit your guy and still win. In basketball, you can't.
Well,
so this is going to be weird.
The other problem is, what if you do have an outbreak and you have to cancel games? Playing it in a series style now complicates rescheduling, because you have to reschedule 2 games
you have
with
to
another
get those
team.
70 games in, or your regional sports contract can cancel out and there's only 72 scheduled, so you can't just not make it up.
Which
and if
makes
it's
me
weekend
wonder,
roadies, what you just said, the whole series is just dead.
Which makes me wonder if they're going to try to jam as much in a short period of time, or build in some kind of, we're going to give a 2-week break.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to do that.
March.
If they might do a week here, you're right, 4 or 5 days here, 4 or 5 days there, to allow for reschedules. I get that.
Because
I am extremely curious if the league is going to go with the entire team has to quarantine if somebody gets it, versus just 1 or 2 players, which does not curtail the spread of the virus if you only quarantine 1 or 2 players and the rest of the players are still doing everything they were doing, because they could be carrying it. However, we'll have to see, and within the NBA just may have to absorb it like these other teams are, these NFL and those other teams are, and college teams. But they're canceling games in some cases.
Yeah, they're debating that part of the negotiations right now. We don't know what that'll be, but to me, when it comes to free agency, I almost feel like you should start it either the week before the draft or the week of the draft, because if you start,
we've always wanted to, haven't we? Yes.
But if you start it after the draft, you're into, the draft's the 18th. So the following week is Thanksgiving, and then the Tuesday after Thanksgiving is the start of training camp. So you're putting decisions basically in a week. You have to speed date and make all these decisions leading into training camp. Like, to your point, if you have to quarantine before you come to a new team in training camp, you're pushing that out a week or 2, right? It's just, it becomes very problematic to bring in new players and integrate them into your system with a game on December 22nd. If the league officially signs off on everything Monday, I'd start free agency and trade period Wednesday or Friday next week, just to give teams the ability to actually institute a plan, because it's going to be total chaos if you don't.
Competitively, they should have been doing this all along. The NFL does it right by having free agency before the draft, and then you use the draft to fill in the pieces you couldn't find in free agency, or use the draft just to find the unicorns that you might try to get that are going to be your long-term players after you've filled in, because you don't want to, the way the NBA does it is a little bit backwards, and it kind of, I think, feeds toward the tanking mode when you want to, and trying to build through the draft, which takes 3 to 5 years to do. They should be switching it anyway, and this would have been a perfect year. However, let's jump to what they are doing right about this schedule with that play-in tournament. What are your thoughts on the 7 to 10 playing for those final 2 seeds?
Yeah. So what has been proposed, and I believe is close to being approved, is that in each conference, 7 to 10 will play in a mini tournament to determine who 7 and 8 are. From an entertainment standpoint, from a fan standpoint, I think it's going to be thrilling. I mean, think about how much fun we had in the bubble,
Oh,
just trying to get an 8-9 matchup in this. Fundamentally, it's going to be problematic, though, especially for a team like the Phoenix Suns, who's been out of the playoffs for so long. If you wind up in a competitive West as the 7 seed, you now don't actually make it into the playoffs. You have to play in a play-in tournament, which adds a little bit more drama, obviously, but it'll be very frustrating to Suns fans if the Suns finish 7th, lose in a play-in tournament, and don't get into the playoffs. Like I could see heads exploding at that point.
Irony.
Like mine being one of them, because we've waited so long in this town to see playoff basketball again. And people argue, well, the play-in tournament technically is part of the playoffs. And everybody else will go, no, because you weren't part of the conventional 1 through 8 and play in an actual series. And that's the problem here. If the Suns had been in the playoffs, were a Jazz type team or whatever the case may be, I'd be fine with it. I'd go, okay, yeah, this will add entertainment. But as a fan base that is starving and basically got thirst trapped by the 8-0 in the bubble, it's time to get in the playoffs, and that's going to be a very frustrating or nerve-wracking situation, because just because you wind up in the play-in tournament doesn't mean you won't win, obviously. But to me,
the thing about making the playoffs is that traditionally making the playoffs is that you get a 7-game series or minimum 5 games back in the day to prove yourself as a playoff team in case you have a bad game. The difficulty about a play-in game is that you could have one bad game and you're just done. So who was it in the Nathaniel Jackson? If you can't win one game, then you don't deserve to be in it. Not necessarily. I mean, there are teams every year that lose playoff games but win the series. Every year.
Yeah.
The Lakers, everybody loses one playoff game, sometimes game 1, and they end up winning the entire series because they're the better team. So I think you're right. Ideally, you have your best game in the one playoff game for sure. But what if you got an injury or two? What if you have just a nagging thing where someone, who was it? Jamal Murray got tendonitis or plantar fasciitis or something like that. Plantar fasciitis in the playoffs. I don't know why I say fascia, but anyway.
I don't care. You're not a doctor, so I'm not going to hold it against you. Yeah.
Well, my lady is a doctor, and she keeps correcting me, and I keep getting it backwards. It's like I can say nuclear with the best of them, but I can't say fascia. So
look, there is a flip side to this, though. I know I tend to fall on the pessimistic side of things. Surprise, surprise. But it could be beneficial for the Suns too, because in a tough West, finishing 9th or 10th won't necessarily mean you had a bad season. You're just in a stacked conference. So then you could get an opportunity to play yourself in, even if you finished a game, a game or two out of the final playoff spot.
Definitely the 7 to 10 favors the 9-10 seeds getting something to play for. It favors teams playing to the very end for that final seed. So they actually were so used to the last 2 weeks of the regular season of the NBA to be just a mosh pit of crap. Now they're all going to be playing. Because you're going to go 12 deep trying to get that 10th seed, So each league, each side. And so it's going to be fun. Those are going to be fun times. The end of the season is going to be the most fun of the entire season, as opposed to the middle being the most fun in the NBA and then the playoffs. So the NBA has had to freshen up its little, its look a little bit, and I think they've done that with this 7 to 10 play-in tournament for sure.
Little housekeeping. I want to remind you, big announcement coming up. Right. Yep. We don't have a breaking news sounder because our graphics department and our video department, me, didn't have a chance to do a breaking news sounder. But I promise you, we will have breaking news shortly. A big announcement coming for the Sun Solar Panel. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, depending on if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Also,
you have the sound over. Pew, pew, pew.
And remember, you can always join either via Anchor or join via YouTube, become a Flaming Baller, a supporter
If
of
you
the
like to
show.
listen only
We
because you don't
appreciate
like
it.
our faces, or you want to do it while you're working or whatever it is, that's the Anchor side, and we love you for that. But definitely, if you like watching our faces and participating in the chat, doing it live is awesome. And you can always watch this later if you didn't get enough the first time through, because some
And
of us like to watch this show 2 or 3 times.
let's be honest, our voices are not much better than our faces. So if you're listening, your ears are getting the treatment that people's eyes are on YouTube. So before
We are
we
the
move
Brad
on,
Pitt of podcasting, man.
before we move on from the off season and get to a few other things, including that big announcement, Dave, we're looking at this, and as we talked about, free agency trade period coming up
Yeah.
shortly. Suns look to have potentially upwards of 22 million in cap space, like we talked to with Keith Smith. Do you want to kind of go through a little bit more if any of those numbers have been updated, or what we might know now as we get closer to free agency?
Sure, absolutely. So it's not quite that much. It was going to be that much if the cap had gone up like expected to 115 million.
Okay.
So what's happened now is what they said is that the cap is going to stay the same year over year, which is artificial because the owners did not make as much money as they were going to this past year. And the basketball related income is what sets the cap. So artificially, it's going to stay at 109.1, just like it was this past year. With that being the case, the Suns are going to have a maximum of 18.69 million to spend. You can go to brightsideofthesun.com and check out my latest story on there about their cap space, and I'll show you how I figured all that out. But definitely, and Keith Smith did verify it. When Keith Smith was on, he said the Suns had a little bit less because he assumed that the Suns would keep Cam Payne's partially guaranteed contract,
which is
fully
1.6
guaranteed.
is 1.6 million, right?
So if you did dump him, what you got to do is you got to replace him with a minimum number of like 800,000, and that's where our difference is. He was at the high 17s, I'm at the high 18s on available. If the Suns really need the money, they could release Cam Payne because he's on a minimum contract anyway, and then just re-sign him to a minimum contract because everyone in the league can sign guys to their veteran minimum. So there's no reason, unless you think Cam's going to run because you released him for a day. I mean, I think he'd rather have a better teammate, good teammates around him so he can be in the playoffs. But having said all that, it's 18.69 million max for the first year of a free agent contract. On a 4-year contract, you can offer somebody else. That's about a 20 million average. So roughly a 4-year, $80 million contract.
And it's the same playing field everybody's dealing with. It's not as if the Suns lost this cap space, but other teams kept it. The Suns and everybody around
Suns
the
are
league
still 5th highest in cap space, and 6th highest in cap space. But Miami's one of those, and Miami is not going to be letting go of. They've already said they're going to run it back for one more year because they want their space next summer. So they're just going to re-sign their guys to 1-year contracts and stuff. Miami's not going to be a big player on the free agent market, which means the Suns will be the 4th or 5th highest in cap space. And the only teams above the Suns in cap space, if you take Miami out, are bad teams that really, although with the 7 to 10 play-in tournament and in the East, they'll be in playoff running too, but they won't be as good at teams. You know what I mean? The Suns project to have the best of the teams with cap space this November, I guess it is December.
So now we've kind of set the stage, and we have the numbers that we need to try to look at this offseason and figure out what we want to see the Phoenix Suns do. So the question is, Dave, what is your big move that you'd like to see the Suns make? This could be trade. This could be
really quick. I just wanted Theo Camus had a great question in the chat. The owner's protected by the escrow. Yes, absolutely. What's happening is the owners, although could lose, the escrow is actually going to cover it. The players, 18% of their salaries are going to be held off in another account. And if the owners really do lose 40% of the revenues because they can never bring any fans into the stands at all, then half of that is just under, about 20%. the players would lose 18% of their salary if there's no revenue coming in from ticket sales. But if they do grow into having ticket sales, then the owners will lose a little bit less money and less of that escrow will be held back. But basically, the owners and the players are in this. I mean, you can say together, but it's really not together because the players are eating half of the losses and the owners are eating the other half of the losses.
Look, everybody loves talking about escrow accounts and finances. That's why people come to the Suns solar panel. But can we get to what you think the Suns should do this offseason? I know nobody cares about players and who they should sign or trade for.
Yeah,
but
right.
Can we get to that?
Yes. What should the Suns? Okay, so what I want to do, so with 18.69 million, what you can do is you can sign one guy to that number, or you can sign a couple of guys, right? So the Suns will be one of only 5 teams who can go over the mid-level exception. There's only a few free agents worth going over the mid-level exception. Espo, who would be, if you could pick one player on the free agent market or trade market, I guess, because you can also absorb contracts in trade too, what would be your one guy you would add to the team?
Do you not have an answer? Is that why you've thrown this back at me? Because I've posed it to you twice now.
Fine. All right, fine.
I can go.
My one guy actually would be here's the thing. I'm going to talk through it. You're going to say your one guy after I say my guy. Then I'm going to talk through how I got to this. But my one guy is actually going to be...
Oh, I'm shocked that
Did I even get to
say
it before you threw that?
No, I was I was shocked by who you said, and so was Kelly Oubre. So I don't know that we.
But I don't even know if they heard me say the name.
No, they didn't. Who was your guy?
Jeremy Grant.
Jeremy Grant is who you'd throw the money at. All right.
Not all of it. Not all of it. But okay. I would target him as my top target.
Look, for me, I think it's a two-pronged strategy here. And you'll hear a lot of talk about Chris Paul still right now. There may be some truth to that. I've heard rumblings from different places in terms of that. I'm not sure that that's where I think this is the smartest play for the team, but I also could get behind that if that's where it eventually goes, because in the end, it's not my money that they're spending. It's the team's money, and that's fine. As long as they put a winner on
41 million. That's almost half the cap.
Hey, if it works out, I don't care, right? I mean, Chris Paul obviously showed what he could do with the team in OKC, and it had much less talent than what the Suns have. So I at least can understand the thinking. But here is what I would like to do. And there's a report this week that this guy is available on the trade market. I would trade for the Nets Spencer Dinwiddie as your point guard of the future. That intrigues me much more.
You got to throw the Kelly clip out there again. Play it a little bit quieter though.
Actually, you know what? I got a different one.
Okay.
No way.
Spencer Dinwiddie. That's kind of the way I think of solving that point guard of the future question there. Ooh. And then you look at a guy like Christian Wood. Now, a lot of people want to go all in and back up the Brinks truck. I'm not in that. I'd hedge my bet and I'd go, here's a very well compensated 2-year deal. Right?
Okay.
We'll give you the money you're looking for, but we're going to do it on a short term because we believe in you, but we also need you to prove it, because I'm afraid of giving this guy big money long term because we haven't seen enough from him. So in a free agency period where there's not a lot of teams with money, it's going to be a short amount of time to make a decision. And guys, I think, are going to be betting on themselves a bit. You say to him, look, you could make even more money 2 years down the road from us, or we make this.
Dinwiddie's the one who's investing his contract, so he may make more money than his contract anyway.
Oh, well, Dinwiddie is. Yeah, Dinwiddie's got the Bitcoin, the whole Bitcoin thing going on. But with Christian Wood, I would say, hey, look, we'll give you the two years, big money, bigger money than you've ever had, and then you can try to get bigger money moving on from there. To me, that's the
dumbest thing I've ever heard. Jesus.
How is that
Really?
dumb? How is that dumb? You're going to see.
Let me tell you, first of all, let me tell you all the reasons. Okay. There's only one reason I didn't pick Christian Wood. Well, there's not only, but there is a big reason I didn't pick Christian Wood. Why is it that people are wondering how he was out of the NBA for a couple of years? Right? And he didn't make it on his prior teams and he got released by his prior teams. It hasn't been talent. He's been on a per 36 if you're a fan of that. Basically, the minutes he's been out there, he's been very productive in his career. So there must be something else wrong with him, right? And I think the only other something else wrong with him is a little bit upstairs as far as focus, as far as dedication, as far as being a team player. There must be something about him that makes him replaceable no matter how productive he is.
And that is the
opposite. That is the opposite of why the Suns. That is the reason that James Jones would not go after him, and that's the reason I didn't focus on him, because I don't think James Jones will focus on him because he's not that team player who does everything that's not in the stats to win. So while Christian Wood wants to win and he is friends, as far as we can tell, with Devin Booker, so was D'Lo. So are and I don't see them being targets of James Jones either, for those same simple reasons. Christian Wood can hit threes, but he's not really. He's more of a DA part of the floor, so I don't even know if they can totally play together.
Look, you asked me what my preference.
Yeah,
would be. You did not ask me what I thought James Jones would do.
Well, the reason I said that was kind of dumb is, because you said it, but also because he's not going to take a 2-year deal. Detroit's going to offer him a 4-year deal. He's going to want the guaranteed long-term money. That's what these guys want. They don't want to be free agents again in 2 years. Kelly Oubre was an exception for taking that 2-year contract. He's not the general rule. The superstars are also 1 or 2 year contract guys. Christian Wood's going to want that 4 years. He's going to want the 4 years. He's probably even going to stay with Detroit just to take the 5 years.
I think this year is going to be different because the cap is in a stall.
But I think he is an exception
about money.
All right, let's bet. What are we going to bet on the number of years in Christian Wood's contract that he signs? If it's more than 2, you're going to buy me a beer next time we're allowed to be in public together.
You need, okay, we can do that, but you need to start making these bets where they're embarrassing on air and people can see it, like we did with the Jonah Hill, me dressing as Jonah Hill. Okay, otherwise it's no fun. Nobody else cares if you get a beer out of me.
Oh man, wow! What would be embarrassing?
I will wear a Chicago Bulls shirt on this podcast if he signs a 5-year deal.
No. 4.
You said
2.
He's going to sign with Detroit.
No, he
on
might.
A 5-year
deal. Didn't. I said he might end up signing with Detroit. He'll take a 4 year.
You said he likely will because he wants.
If he signs for less than 3 years, I'll take my shirt off for you folks.
Oh God, nobody wants to see that. All right, bets off.
That's embarrassing.
Let's just stop this talk. You're gonna ruin. We're gonna lose all the viewers.
I'll wear that New Jersey without a t-shirt underneath. Boom.
God, why are we punishing the viewers? Let's. You know what? I think it's time to announce our big announcement. What do you think? I don't have a drum roll. I don't have anything. But let's
announcement.
There's actually a video that we're going to play. So here is our big announcement.
Hey, Suns fans, Saul, along with Dave and Espo.
And we're excited to announce the Best Suns show is joining the Fox Sports Arizona family of podcasts.
On the Suns Solar Panel, we break down everything about your Phoenix Suns.
So follow us anywhere you listen to podcasts, on the Suns Solar Panel YouTube page, or on the Fox Sports Arizona Facebook page.
So let's welcome in the newest member.
Fellas.
Hey.
On the Suns Solar Panel, it's Saul Bookman. Saul, how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic today. How you guys doing?
Hey, Saul, can I just say that next time we record a commercial, it's got to be in the morning light because.
Oh man, you know what? I think next week. I think next week for the first show, we'll show everybody exactly how long it freaking took to just get one take from Dave, let alone 2.
It was not on the 1-line part, but there's a 2-line thing that you guys are never going to show because I couldn't remember all those words.
the one line wasn't much easier. Let's be honest.
No, I got the one line in one take. It was the two lines that took 50
takes. So we are very excited to announce that we are part of the Fox Sports Arizona family. Starting next Saturday, you will see us on the Fox Sports Arizona Facebook page, and we'll be part of their podcast network. Saul is now our official third wheel here, and somehow, even going through this process, I still stay the youngest member of the Sun Solar Panel. So eat it, everybody else. I'm still the youthful one in the group. But Saul,
in the end, I want to apologize to Brendan and Jared and Brandon, who also did some stand-ins for us on the round table. They were all younger than Espo, so he excluded them.
That was exactly how it happened as well. We were going to do this like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. I was going to present you with a red rose, Saul, but then I decided that was way too much effort since we're sitting like 15, 20 miles apart.
Also, not a big fan of other dudes giving me a rose, so I'm cool.
That's to each their own. Did you guys know,
though? Your sensitive side on this show.
Did you guys actually know there was another promo that almost dropped for this to announce this? Were you aware of this, guys?
Oh God,
I don't.
You're not going to play it.
I feel like you're setting me up for failure right now. Go ahead.
Now you're going to see it.
Oh, hold on. No, wait.
The hottest podcast in the Sun Solar System is joining forces with Fox Sports Arizona's podcast network. Catch us where you listen to podcasts on the Sun Solar Panel YouTube page or the Fox Sports Arizona Facebook page.
Hey, now that's it. Hey, that's all I gotta say.
I love it. Hey, it makes sense, man.
I was shocked they were so excited that we're joining Fox Sports Arizona. When the team sent that over to me.
Well, I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, it's awesome that we're joining forces in this partnership, and I mean, there's so much that's going to go into it, which I'm excited to talk about as well. But no, I'm excited to join forces with you guys and see what kind of cool stuff we can do. And you guys have been doing an amazing job through your entire run so far, and that's the reason why I wanted to come after you. And I was like, well, let's see how we can make this work.
Well, yeah, we need to talk about the origin of your name, man. Saul Book, man.
So I just found
a perfect Suns fan.
So I just, so my first name is Saul. My middle name is Matthew. I don't know why my parents had a religious experience all of a sudden when I was born. I have no bit. I don't go to church every Sunday. My parents didn't go to church every Sunday. And actually yesterday I was typing in my birth date randomly for something else, and I saw that I was actually born on a Sunday. So Sunday. It all just yeah, there you go. So
I'm glad we got into the origins of Saul's name. That's what the people are here for.
I'm the first Saul, by the way. No Saul Goodman, not Better Call Saul, not Mr. Bookman from Good Times, all that BS. Original. No, I'm the original.
Let's actually talk a little bit about what's coming up. As I mentioned, we're going to be on the Fox Sports Arizona Facebook page. We'll still be on the Suns Solar Panel YouTube page, as you heard in the spot. But we also are going to do some exciting things, some special shows specifically for the Fox Sports Arizona Facebook page that will keep you guys updated on around special times of the year, potentially some post game stuff. There's all sorts of things on the table that we're going to be able to do. And the great part is that thanks to our partnership with Fox Sports Arizona, there's all going to be all sorts of new bells and whistles that we can show on the show, all sorts of new guests that we can talk to. This is an opportunity to make the show better for you, the fans. Absolutely. And that's why Dave and I decided that working with Saul and Fox Sports Arizona was going to be best for everybody, because it's going to bring a fuller, more entertaining show to you.
I'm really looking forward to doing the post games. Look, we're still going to do Saturday mornings. None of this is changing, you guys. All of you diehards that are in this Saturday morning chats, we're all staying here. But we're also going to start doing some post games, maybe not all the post games, but some post games. And we're going to follow the Tom and Tom show after on Fox Sports Arizona that's on TV. Then they're going to tease us into the live streaming on YouTube. Then we're going to give you the real lowdown on what happened in the game. That's and we're good or bad. We're going to be the truthers, and it's going to be fun doing post games because Espo, you remember doing post games in the bubble. And that was a blast. Hundreds of you guys in the chat with us right after games or soon after games ended. I'll still be going into the locker room to do the interviews, assuming we're allowed to be back on site again and it's safe, because I'm not going to go in if it's not safe. But assuming I'm doing post games, then I'm going to jet home real quick. I'm only a couple minutes from the arena. We'll log on, so it'll be right after the Tom and Tom. It's going to be perfect.
And that is exactly.
Do we need all those details, Dave? Jesus.
He was about to provide his
I love it. No, that's the part I'm really looking forward to.
So what's going to happen is I'm going to leave the arena. Then I'm going to go to my car. Once I get to the car, I'm going to stick my key in the. Okay, let's just go.
Once I get home,
keys anymore. It's push button. Come on.
Once I get home, I'm going to do the Mr. Rogers. I'm going to kick my shoes off, put on my cardigan. I'll leave the press pass on though, and then I'll turn on the
awesome.
Computer.
I'm going to actually do that.
Can I actually talk about some of these bells and whistles? Can we talk about what's going to happen?
Please do so.
So, because, first of all, like you guys said, I think the most important thing is like everything that your followers have been watching on YouTube or Facebook or wherever they get you, podcasts and all that stuff. You guys, you don't have to switch anything up. The only thing we're doing on Saturdays is just adding our Facebook stream to get more people involved. That's all we're trying to do. This is one of the best shows out there, Suns wise, on the internet and on digital. And I think we need to really maximize that. Second, bells and whistles. I mean, come on. Like you said a little earlier, your production crew sometimes lets you down, which is yourself, Espo. And we have.
I let it sound too because I don't produce anything.
Hey, Dave. Yes. Unlike Tim, can we let the new guy actually talk? That'd be great.
So as we move forward, there'll be some graphics, there'll be some cool videos that we'll be able to share, and like you pointed to, Espo, specialized content. And one of those specialized pieces of content that we're going to try and produce, or that we will produce, is we will be doing a live show for the NBA draft on NBA draft night. That is something that will happen. We will bring, everything to you as it's happening, and hopefully we can get some type of access in terms of maybe whoever they draft or whatever incorporated into the show somehow. And before that, which is next Saturday, our first official joint partnership show, we will have Jeff Goodman on to talk about the NBA draft. He's done a lot of prospect profiles on our social media platforms. If you haven't taken a look at it, please do, on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you watch our stuff. And so he'll talk about some of those prospects, the good, the bad, and the ugly of all that stuff, and what he expects the Suns to maybe do. So we got a lot of things in the fire right now, and we're excited to join up with you guys for sure.
Yeah, it'll be the same show, just a little nicer looking. It's like, remember the show in the early 2000s, Pimp My Ride? Fox Sports Arizona is just pimping our podcast. It's gonna look cooler. We're gonna have some screens in the trunk or something. That's how this will work. Coach Fallen Founder in the chat asks,
a fish tank in the van. Yes,
why
let's
not?
do it.
Undercarriage blue light. Yeah.
Also, I did want to say this. I know I'm gonna get this at some point. Somebody's gonna say, "Why the hell is Michael Jordan on your wall?" Just let me have that one, okay? I have Barkley right here. I've been a lifelong Suns fan. I cried when we lost the 93 championship. I cried when Paxon hit the three. Like, I'm as big a Suns fan as anybody out there. I just love Michael Jordan. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, you and I are going to have a problem. Anyway, Coach Fallen Founder in the chat wants to know, will the Flaming Ballers continue? Yeah. Hopefully gets bigger, because you guys are the heartbeat and the lifeblood of this show. So yes, Flaming Ballers will continue. We'll continue the mailbag with you guys. Everything from that front will continue as well. So we may even ask you guys, when we know we have a big guest on, to provide us some questions you'd like asked. All sorts of opportunities here to continue to do things, and your favorite segments will continue, like Espo's Big Board. Yeah, that's right. this ain't going away, at least for the next week, because they told me I have to do it. So this week's Espo's Big Board is focusing on, as we mentioned in the open, the arena is no longer going to be called the Talking Stick Resort Arena. Apparently, negotiations between the two broke off. They announced it yesterday, so they are in search of a new title sponsor for the arena. So I've got 4 name suggestions that I don't think would be very good for the arena. And we're going to start off with, and it's apropos this week, the CNN Election Night in America Arena. If any of us hear that term again anytime soon, I think we're going to lose our minds. So I think that would be an awful name for an arena right now, right? I mean, I think that one would be pretty bad. In honor of Saul's Wall, we have the Paxon Pavilion. I think that would be a terrible name for the Suns arena. So I'm going to take that one off the list. We move to, I think this one is my favorite. All right. Number 3 on the list. It is the General Arena. I think that would be a really bad name for an arena. I don't know. I don't think. Welcome to the General Arena. I just don't think it has the kind of pizzazz that you want in a naming naming sponsor.
Why does it have to be arena? Why can't it be like Bowl or Coliseum or something like that?
I had a pavilion in there, and the next one is an arena, but I just thought this one would be funny, and Shaq would have to be around since he's a spokesperson for the General. So the General Arena just didn't feel like a good fit for a building that had just been renovated and had a lot of money put into it. You know, a lot of facelifts, a lot of looks to make it look prettier. The Kendall J Coliseum seems like a bad idea too. I don't know. Coliseum with a K too. We had to add the K for Kendall in there. But when we talk about something having a lot of money spent, on it, I think Kendall Jenner comes to mind. And I thought, she does have a connection to the team, and with the money that she has, she could very well afford to sponsor the arena. But I just don't know that would be the best thing. Could get awkward if her and Book don't make it. So those are the 4 names that I just don't think would be the greatest for the new arena. That is Espo's Big Board. There were a lot of great ones on Twitter too. I didn't want to steal any of those, so I came up with my own list there, which is probably significantly less funny than Twitter, but I have parameters that I can't go past as well. So that is Espo's Big Board for the week. That was. I think we'll continue it. I don't know. Maybe we'll come up with something.
We're definitely keeping it. We're definitely keeping it. Okay. Also, I did want to tell everybody, hey, these late starts we keep having, it's not going to happen anymore, guys. I'm going to wake up Espo on time, and we're going to start these shows right at the top of the hour.
This one started a minute after 8. Like,
what time did last week start?
Last week's my alarm didn't go off, which was like the first time that had ever happened.
And we're going to fix Dave's Wi-Fi.
Apparently Dave's Wi-Fi. Dave is so fed up with Espo's Big Board, and already saw one segment into him being part of it. He's done. He's out. I don't know where Dave went, but let's turn to you, Saul. I want to get your thoughts on the off season here. As Dave shared his thoughts, I kind of shared what my ideal situation would be, but roughly 18 million, if the 18.6 million, I believe, was the number that Dave had come to when he went to NASA and tabulated everything. What would you like to see this team potentially do in free agency or the trade market, as we basically have 3 weeks before training camp?
Well, we're talking about a team that's on the cusp, right? On the cusp of the playoffs. They're going to be somewhere between that 7 to 10 range again, right? Because they haven't, unless like DeAndre significantly improves and goes from like a 2010 guy to 25-15, then we're talking about, okay, maybe we're in the mid-range of the Western Conference. But until that happens, you're relying heavily on Book to try and carry this load like he did in the bubble, and other players to step up like they did in the bubble. And who's going to move that needle for the Suns? And I hate to say it because I'm not a big fan of this move, but if you can get Oklahoma City to take on a significant portion of that contract and maybe even move Rubio then you can bring in a Chris Paul, because I do believe Chris Paul can move that needle a little bit more for you. But for how long will that happen? Are we talking about like a 1, 2, 3 year deal? Chris Paul's, he's coming to the kind of twilight of his career as well. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the Suns do. I think for value, I would much rather go for Jeremy Grant than Christian Wood. I just think that he fits a little bit better overall. I'm not a big Christian Wood fan, and I'm also not a big fan of dudes that all of a sudden had a great year and then but you never heard of them before, never saw them before, and they didn't really do much before. So that's kind of where I would go if I was the Suns in that range. And outside of that, I'm kind of interested to see what happens in the draft. They're at the 10th spot. They got a lot of flexibility. They don't need somebody at 10. They're talking about a lot of these wing players as well. Like, do you need them? No. Would you like to have them? Sure. I think at some point, Elie Okobo is going to have to step up and show that he can actually be a part of this team. Because now, this will be going on year 3. And usually at about this point, the Suns are like, okay, we either pull chalks or we need to make you, a consistent part of this rotation. And he just hasn't proven that to this point. So you're probably looking for somebody to replace his spot on the roster in this draft. And I think if they do that, I would love Killian Hayes. I'm a big Killian Hayes fan. I think he's, people question his athleticism, but I think he's got all the skills to play in the NBA despite the athleticism. And we've seen at the point guard position, you don't need to be the most athletic guy in the world to play that position. Ricky Rubio has the tightest hips in the league, and he still proves that he can play in this league. So
and we know hips don't lie. So
hips do.
We know he's not athletic. I am the reason I lean towards Christian Wood over Jeremy Grant is that it's a home run swing. Jeremy Grant, I think you pretty much know what you're getting and you can pencil it in for the most part. Christian Wood can take it to that next level, I think. I think that's the intriguing part of him. But that also means he could bottom out as well. So you're gambling there. But when I look at the Suns, and this is part of why the Chris Paul thing, as I think about it longer, may not be the worst idea. I was very against it initially just because of the cap hit. But, when I think about it more, the Suns have to take a swing. They have to take a chance because of the last 11 years and not making the playoffs and the reputation that the franchise wound up earning in that time. You're going to have to take chances to land that piece that's going to put you over the top, whether it's Chris Paul, whether it's it's taking a chance on Christian Wood, those kind of things. You're going to have to you're not going to land the perfect candidate. As much as I'd love to think Giannis is going to come to Phoenix, I just don't see that happening the way that the league and the power structure.
But the Suns are finally in a position where they can get that kind of attention from somebody, to actually mean something. You can't convince a Giannis, right, or the Bucks to trade on a team that just won 13 games the year before. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
This time with the bubble success, now you've got people's attention and people can kind of see the potential of what the Suns can offer. That's why I think now's the time to pull a trigger on something big if you're going to do it at all.
I think so too, but I think that it's going to be big that has potential downside. It's not going to be a all chips in, no brainer. This is a move. That's a power play that the Warriors, the Lakers of the world, even the Clippers have moved into that real estate area. That's the kind of play those kind of teams can.
You're looking for the Charles Barkley move, is what you're looking for. Because when Charles came over here, there was a lot of doubt as to what he was going to be able to provide the Suns and how much we gave up to get him. And then obviously that worked out tremendously. So
and there were character questions too. Let's be honest. Charles Barkley had all sorts of issues on and off the court before the Suns traded for him. So they were taking the chance that he was going to wind up fitting culturally and not make any massive mistake or be on the backslide of his career. So you're going to have to take a chance. And that's why Christian Wood over Jeremy Grant. That's why I'm intrigued now a little bit more by Chris Paul than I had been in the past. I still prefer Spencer Dinwiddie, but we're going to hop into the Flaming Baller mailbag as we got some questions over the week. Do you like that one? We got to get a graphic for that. Now that we have a graphic,
I got you. Writing it down on the list.
Flaming Baller mailbag. Let's get that one in. So Saul is basically my graphics assistant now, is the way I'm treating this. But we have a question on YouTube. Would you trade Drew Holiday for the 10th pick and Rubio? I haven't done the math on if that works, but then he says you would sign a Christian Wood or Danilo Gallinari to go along with that. Yeah. Do I think that makes this team better? Yes. Do I think the Pelicans want what the Suns are going to offer for Drew Holiday? I'm going to guess no. I'm going to guess they probably would get a little bit more of what they're looking for from another dance partner in that case, if they actually are going to move on from Drew Holiday. But what are your thoughts, Saul? Do you like potentially chasing Holiday during the holiday season?
I love Holiday. I love his ability to play on both ends of the floor. I would much rather have Drew Holiday than Chris Paul easily. Yeah, absolutely. But is that ever going to happen? I don't know. I don't think 10 and Rubio is going to do the trick. And if you're the Pelicans, do you take on Rubio? Like, what's the up and downside to that? Maybe you got 2 years left on the contract, and that's probably the only upside comparable. So I'm not a big fan of that. I think if you're the Suns, you probably have to give up a little bit more to get Drew Holiday, but I could be wrong. And I'm kind of surprised about Drew Holiday in the first place because Stan Van Gundy is such a defensive-minded coach as well. And Drew Holiday has proven to be a solid defensive point guard in this league. But I'm sure there's other reasons why they're trying to shop him as well, because they can probably get a lot of value, and that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, all right. Against my better judgment, we welcome Dave King back to the show. Apparently, Dave hates Espo's big board, and that's your prerogative. But,
I'm out, man.
No, Dave.
He's on that AT&T Wi-Fi right there.
Dave's got
it's I should actually plug in the power cord to my laptop.
Wow, Dave ran out of juice. All right, that's good to know.
Sorry,
Eduardo in the chat as we continue the Flaming Ballers mailbag wants to know: would you go after Kevin Love or Blake Griffin? Dave, we'll start with you since you've been MIA for the last few minutes.
Oh, geez. Can I say no on both of them?
Yes, that's the way a question works. You are allowed to say no. So no on both of them.
Gosh, if I had to pick between the two, I would say Kevin Love because he's more likely to play more games. He kind of fits the mold. He's basically a step up from Frank Kaminsky. So we'll go with him.
Saul, what are your thoughts there?
No. That's it.
All right.
Just no.
Perfect.
No, absolutely no. No.
Look, I think.
Hey, wait a minute. I wasn't allowed to just say no, and now Saul is allowed to just say.
Well, no. I can live with silence. You can't live with silence. So that when you said no and I got quiet, you got uncomfortable. You started talking right away.
It wasn't even that.
It's asked. A podcast. There's not supposed to be silence on a podcast.
Dave, you asked, "Can I say no?" I said yes. That's how a question works, and you decided to continue talking. So that is not on me.
There's a question in the chat that I really want to answer.
Is it Dave King for Rajon Rondo? Because I said yes.
No, it's the thoughts on Alonzo Trier, which I think is okay. So Alonzo Trier. Let's talk about Alonzo Trier. I think bringing Alonzo Trier isn't a bad move. However, if you don't like ISO ball, you don't like ISO Zoe. That's just how it is. And that's his name on Twitter, ISO Zoe, for a reason. He's very much a ball dominant kind of player. And he proved that all his years at U of A. He proved that at the Knicks. But his first year in New York, he did a fantastic job. He got a 2-year, $7 million contract, and then kaput, and that was it. And he barely even touched the court last year. So I don't think Alonzo Trier is the answer for the Suns. If you want to take a flyer on him, sure, why not? But he's got to be able to fit into the system. And I don't think he's that type of player for the Suns at this point.
For those of you that don't know Saul's background, Saul spent a lot of time at U of A, so he knows about these guys. So perfect question.
Did you guys get the chance to talk about Lauri Markkanen?
We have not.
U of A.
No,
don't bring up Lauri. I love me some Markkanen.
You want to go for Lauri?
Yeah, last time I was on the podcast, I talked about that was one of those assets out there that I know he's not happy in Chicago, and he definitely wants to leave. And obviously they've changed, their dynamics over there. But I think Lauri is a major upgrade over Kaminsky, and why can I not think of the other guy's name?
Dario.
Yeah, sorry. So I think he's a major upgrade there. He's much more consistent from the perimeter. He's a little bit weak down low, which you don't like to see, but I think he's a better fit for the Suns all the way around.
I'm in agreement. I would love to see Lauri Markkanen here in Phoenix. I'd actually prefer him to Christian Wood or Jeremy Grant. If you're going to take a chance on a guy, I'd rather go that route and see if you can recapture where he was. He fits that spread for that I really think is what you need long-term in this offense. So I would go after him. I know that's not exactly the most popular of picks.
Also, somebody in the chat said, "Oh yeah, Alonzo Trier with DeAndre Ayton, 2 Wildcats, that would be sick." Yeah, but you're probably leaving in the first round. Oh,
if you make the first round. I mean,
if you make the first round,
let's assume Alonzo Trier gets you there.
Let's just remember the DNA of recent Wildcats, okay? And that hurts because I'm a Wildcat, okay? But hey. Has been successful.
Let's move on. David Wigton in the chat wants to know: do you guys think next season is a playoff or bust type year? Is there too much competition in the West for that to be a realistic expectation? Great question, David. We'll start with you, Saul.
I think it is absolutely playoff or bust. This team has grown. They grew. They grew over the course of the season. I think that the fantastic start when they beat the Clippers and the Sixers at the beginning of the season, and they kind of went through that little lull, and they had some injuries, but then they kind of regrouped. And when they got to the bubble, it was like you saw the flashes there of the bubble. Now, my thoughts on the bubble are probably a little bit different than everybody else's. I feel like they got about 75% of everybody's like max potential because, teams like the Clippers, yeah, they played, but they didn't really have too much to play for. So, you don't get quite the intensity that maybe you would have gotten if you were playing against a team that you knew if you lost, they're making the playoffs and you aren't. And so there's that. But I absolutely think that the Suns have to make the playoffs this year. And I think if they make the playoffs, it's because you're going to see significant development from DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton to me is the key to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Whoever you get free agency wise, whatever, I don't really care. I don't give a crap. It's DeAndre Ayton. He has to show up this year. He has to improve, and he has to just be dominant and aggressive like he did. He has shown flashes of that, but you just need it on a more consistent level. And I truly believe he will.
Well, his first 2 years, he's proven that he wow, I Dave King'd it. He's proven that that he does improve. I mean, you look at season 1 to season 2, he took a jump. Now you have to see that kind of improvement going into season 3, and this time hopefully without a suspension, so then you don't miss additional time. So I agree. I think Ayton is the key, but you have to add those pieces this offseason that also help you take that next step and set you up not only this year but for the future, because DeAndre Ayton's the key in part this year, but massively going into the future, because you need him to develop into the star next to Devin Booker. If he doesn't, your whole future plan is flawed.
Yeah, but I get kind of sick and tired of people talking about the future. Like, and I'm not trying to knock you, Espo. I'm just saying, like, the future's how long's the future? He's only got 2 more years after this year. You know what I mean? Like, and that's if they take the exception, which I know they will. But you can't just wait around forever, especially when you see the explosive rookies that come in from time to time. Like the guy over in Dallas. Like you gotta expect more, and you gotta stop.
I agree.
You got to make the playoffs this year.
This whole development thing, like, hey, 3 years should be plenty of time to develop into the superstar you should be. And DeAndre Ayton, for all intents and purposes, should be a superstar in this league.
And I expect to see that in these 72 games that they're going to play this year. And I think I'm not saying it's not playoffs or bust this year. It definitely is playoffs or bust. I think you could argue if you're in the 7 to 10, it's a good season in the West because you will be competing in that play-in tournament and you'll have a chance. All right, I want to see them in the playoffs, but if they get in the play-in, at least it's the right direction in a West that's tougher this season than it even was last year. And we're projecting this without having any clue what any of these moves are going to be. So a lot of this can change, but playoffs or bust is a definite. All I'm saying is DeAndre Ayton's the key now, a big key now, and an even bigger key as we move forward because he has to grow along with Devin Booker for any of this to work and put you from being a fringe playoff team to being a championship contender. And that's where we all want to see the Suns. If you're not fighting for that, there's no point in being in the league. And I think that's where we all expect this team to be in the next 2 to 4 years is a legitimate contender. And that's what they're trying to build. So I'm just saying this year's playoffs are bust. And if you want to take it to that next level where everybody wants you to be, DeAndre Ayton has to be one of the people to lead you there.
Absolutely.
All right. Last question from the Flaming Ballers mailbag. It is Blaze Megatron, one of our favorite Flaming Ballers over on YouTube. He said, you know what? We talk a lot about bad trades that have happened, and every fan base does. But what are some of your favorite best trade decisions that the Suns have made?
I love me some Blaze, by the way. I don't know. Blaze, if you're out there, I just want you to know I'm a major fan of you because every time I would leave the arena, I would hear you on John Bloom's radio show breaking down the game from the East Coast. And I was just like, man, this dude knows what he's talking about. And I really and I also like his accent. He's got that, hey, let me tell you something about that John Bloom.
That's flex.
That's
you got guys.
Oh my God, I got Blaze and Flex. My bad.
Blaze is one of my favorite. Saul's the new guy, so we can allow that. If Dave pulled that,
I'll take the L on that one.
Actually, you know what? It is a long-standing tradition for people to get names wrong on this show. So you were fitting right in. So
my old age, it's that old age. There it is.
Blaze, I love this question. I think Saul inadvertently actually mentioned the trade earlier. It was the Charles Barkley trade when you can flip Jeff Hornacek, Andrew Lang,
Tim Perry.
I mean, you're not talking about the greatest accumulation of talent ever, and you get a superstar, an MVP, a guy that leads you to the finals and launches you into the stratosphere of basketball. I don't think it gets much better than that. I love Jeff Hornacek, but he was by no means a star, and he was the best player that went back to Philly, and he was only in Philly for 1 year. So I think the Suns made the best of that deal.
I think it was KJ. I think it was the KJ trade that took him out of the whole drug scandal back in 87, spring of 88, maybe, or is there a spring of 87?
87.
Yeah.
87.
So also brought in Mark West, who was until this past year probably the best Suns center in history over more than one season. I thought, and that obviously that took the Suns straight into conference finals contentions, and then finally when they did add Barkley, they were ready for the finals. So it's got to be that KJ trade. Man, he was the 7th pick in the draft, and the Suns traded Larry Nance to clear out the team from the drug scandals. They traded Larry Nance. Everybody was sad about that. But KJ came in and immediately was a 2010 guy. And if he hadn't had injuries on the court, he was a Hall of Fame level player.
I believe they also got the pick that became Dan Marley out of that trade too.
Yep,
I
you're
could
right.
be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
So that's 3 starters in the finals.
Yeah, I think that's a great call, Dave.
trade.
Saul, do you have one that sticks out to you?
No, the Barkley one's the only one that really sticks out to me because I am struggling trying to remember if Jason Kidd is the one that got traded here. I think he was, right?
Yep.
He was
Kidd was traded. It was Christmas, actually.
That's right.
I was over at a family's house for Christmas. I don't know if it was day of or day after or day before, but it was right around there. And Jason Kidd suddenly was acquired by the Suns. Absolutely, that was huge.
Yeah, because
that helped the Suns, but they didn't get all the way there.
It kind of set the tone for what was to come, though. That eventually led to the whole 7 seconds or less, and moving in Nash into the Suns, and it was just a development. So, yeah.
So, Coach Fallen Founder says in the chat, Q Rich for Kurt Thomas, an underrated trade. I don't know, because Q Rich was a big part of that first run, that first rendition of 7 seconds or less. And I've always wondered if they just ran back Joe Johnson and Quentin Richardson with Amari and Nash and the Matrix, if that would have been the championship puzzle that they already had, and they decided to pull apart before they ever found out if it worked.
I know Q Rich thinks so. I know Q Rich thinks so.
He certainly does, and he said it on his podcast numerous times. All right, well, I think we have exhausted everything that's been in the Flaming Ballers mail sack. So thank you to all our Flaming Ballers. If you want to join the crew, hit that join button on YouTube or find it in the show notes on your podcast, wherever you listen. You can find it in there. Click the link, become a supporter. We really appreciate you guys as always, because as we said, no matter who we partner with, no matter who does the show, without you, we're just talking to ourselves, and that's just a waste of time. So we truly do appreciate you. Saul, appreciate you.
The sack is empty. We exhaust the sack. It's all these
Blaze,
all the puns.
Buck Dog.
Yeah.
The Flaming Ballers always know how to make a good bad pun, and we appreciate it. Saul, so excited to have you as part of the team, and I won't call you Sal like I inadvertently kept doing in our recording for it.
I'm telling you, I'm going to cut all that stuff together so everybody out there can understand the pain and torture of 40 minutes of trying to record a 30-second commercial.
Dude, I got to give a shout out to Lindsey Smith and all the actors out there. Obviously, all I had to try to do was say 2 lines, and it was impossible to remember like the 25th word I had to memorize. And Lindsey, then 2 days later, Lindsey Smith did this entire presentation, for the breakthrough, the Suns breakthrough videos and all that, or whatever those are called on Thursdays. She does a great job. All you guys do a great job that can record, can memorize lines, because I certainly can't.
Dave, none of us were surprised by the fact that happened. And I'd like to make it clear I was the only one that nailed it in a one take out of the group. So not that I'm bragging, but I am. So, but
you certainly set the tone at the very beginning by stumbling through it for like 30 takes. So let's not just act like we're perfect all the time. Okay, you finished strong, but you started weak.
Look,
let's just say that
it wasn't on the one line. You were weak, and I had one take, and then it's just the opposite.
It wasn't that I couldn't memorize the line. For some reason, I just kept calling Saul Sal, and it's probably the Italian in me. I don't know why I did it, but it happened. So, but Saul, please bring that clip next week for our first show with the Fox Sports Arizona crew, because I think it'll be very entertaining for the audience. So for Saul Bookman, Saul, why don't you let the people know where they can find you on social?
Yeah, you can find me at Saul, SAUL _Bookman on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. And again, Fox Sports Arizona, follow us on all the platforms on social media, please. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, just about everywhere you can think of, even on TikTok. So we're going to bring a lot of content. We're going to bring a lot of cool pieces. We want to make the show better for you guys. It's already great. We just want to take it from like a 9 to a 10. That's all we're trying to do. And I love the audience. I love the participation. I love the engagement. I think you guys do a tremendous job, because if you didn't, I would have never talked to you in the first place. So I appreciate you guys.
He is Dave King. You can follow him at Dave King NBA. The NBA is there to help make him feel better about himself. And I'm at Espo. And you can follow the show at Sun Solar Panel on Twitter and Facebook. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next week on the other side of the big announcement as we join the Fox Sports Arizona podcast family. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.